All right, this is 1.4 literal equations. A literal equation is an equation written with variables. You've seen these for many years already. They're just formulas, but specifically these have multiple variables in them. And I just wrote some of them. You should recognize every one of these. This one right here is distance equals rate times time. The next one is interest equals principal times rate times time. This one, right, I mean, I don't want to go through every one of them, but all of these, notice they're solved for a certain variable. Like this is solved already for D. D equals R times T. So this is distance equals rate times time. So it's solved for the letter D. And on this equation, on this lesson, what we're going to ask you to do is to rearrange it using algebra properties so that it's not solved for D, but it might be solved for R, or it might be solved for T. Or I might take this next equation. See, notice it starts off with I equals PRT. Well, what if I wanted to say R equals? I'm going to rearrange it using algebra properties so that it equals a different variable equals the rest of the equation. Again, the same thing with perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Right now it says P equals, but what if I wanted it to L equals? The length equals what? And again, with each one of these formulas, again, you should recognize these, and there's probably 10 more that you probably used in pre-algebra, 10 more common formulas, but they're all solved. This is V equals, this is C, the circumference of a circle, Celsius, Fahrenheit. So if I wanted to take a certain letter and rearrange it to where it doesn't say C equals, but if it like C equals pi d, what if I wanted it to say D equals? And so what we're going to do is go through some examples, again, using the algebra properties. All right, so this says solve for L, and this is a common formula of perimeter of a rectangle. And again, right now it's solved for the letter P, but I'm telling you that I want you to solve for the letter L. So focus on L. So I want L by itself. And so if I want L by itself, again, just imagine if it said something like 5 equals 2L plus 2. Just treat it just like the same thing. Remember, variables represent a number. So this P right here could actually equal 5. We don't know what it equals, but I mean, solve it the exact same format. So if you ever get lost at these, just replace some of the variables with numbers, and just how would you go about solving for L? So here, your first thing you would do is minus 2 from both sides. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to minus 2W from both sides. Again, here's the wall. Imagine the wall's right there. So on this common equation, those cross out and you have 2L. And again, this is just an example of the example. So if you ever get lost, always follow a common problem. Always follow a common problem. So on this real problem example that I have over here, so on the left side of the wall, well, P minus 2W, that's what you have. You can't actually subtract them. So it's actually P minus 2W. Now here we could subtract them, 5 minus 2, because they're both numbers. Here we can't. P minus 2W is just P minus 2W. And then what's left on that right side is 2L. Well, just like here, you would divide by 2. So that's what we're going to do here. Divide. Now here's a good tip. You have two choices. You can divide. You could divide like one big long division bar like that. But if it can be simplified, you have to simplify it. So I would recommend dividing individually by 2. So everything gets divided. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So P divided by 2 stays, but notice these 2's right here can simplify. They can cross each other out, and that's why you have to divide individually. Anytime you can reduce, I would suggest you divide individually. So L equals P divided by 2 minus W. So again, it's the same formula, it's just rearranged. That's all it is. This formula is the same formula as this formula. It's just rearranged. So, and you're like, well, why would we ever want to rearrange it? Well, like this, is specifically for finding the perimeter. Like if you had L and if you had W, like if you knew the length and the width, like 8 and 2. If you knew the length and the width, then you can find a perimeter by using that formula. Well, like what if on this one, on this problem, what if you knew the perimeter, like if you knew the perimeter of what, let's say the perimeter is 40, okay, 40 inches, and you knew the width, and again, what if the width was, I'm just making this problem up, but what if the width was 5? And so you can use this formula right here to find out the length of the rectangle as well. So the whole purpose is to rearrange it to help us solve for a specific variable. All right, so here's a common formula again, solve for W. This is volume equals LWH, length times width times height. Again, this is a rectangular prism. You know, so you might have 3, 2, 4, you know, whatever. I'm not the best artist, but a three-dimensional cube and or a rectangle, and so the LWH. So you multiply 2 times 3 times 4 to find the volume. But again, I'm not actually doing that. What I'm asking you to do right now, it is solved for V, but I want to solve for the letter W. I want to solve for him. And again, we got to use algebra properties. We want W by itself, which means we need to concentrate on him and we need to get rid of the L and the H. Well, this is L times W times H. Well, to get rid of multiplication, we're going to divide by L and divide by H. So, and of course, if we divide that side by L and we divide that side by H, we got to divide this side by L and this side by H. Again, the H's cross out. H divided by H cross each other out. L divided by L cross each other out. And I'm left with W. That's what I want to do. So V over LH is your answer. I'm done. I took the same equation and I rearranged it. Solve for Y. Now this is the most common way you're going to be doing these problems, solving for Y. So again, what we're trying to do is Y equals. We want Y by itself. So we need to get rid of the 2x. We're going to minus 2x on both sides of the equation. And then we're going to divide. Again, you know, divide as a group. 15 minus 2x. You could divide by 3 on both sides, like that. But I recommend that you divide individually. And the reason is because if something can reduce, like this guy can reduce, then you need to reduce him. Now, again, if that wasn't 15, let's just say if that was a 14. Let's just say that was a 14. Well, then you could write your answer like this, okay? Because 3 doesn't go into 14 and 3 doesn't go into 2, so you could just write your answer like that. But again, if something can be divided, then you divide them individually to be able to do that. So again, I solved for Y. Again, another problem just like it, solving for Y is a common thing that you're going to do. So we're going to add 4x to both sides. Now, the reason why I want to do this one, because it's very similar, but some students forget, notice this sign right here, that's a negative 5y. And then we're going to divide, let me divide individually on this problem. And just to show you something, even though, and some students are like, well, why? This is where you just got done saying, you know, about reducing. Nothing reduces here. Yes, but you're not supposed to leave a negative on the denominator. So that's why I wanted to write this, you know, individually, just so you can see to bring up the negative sign. Okay, the negative should not remain in the denominator. So you just basically just bring it up to the top, or in this case, just bring it out front. It's the same thing. All right, one last problem. Solve for x. So I basically want x by itself. And so first thing I'm going to do is use the distributive property. So here I get 8x minus 8a. Here I get 4a minus 2x. And then I'm going to bring all my x's. You know, since I'm gonna bring it to one side. I'm just gonna go and bring it to the left side. So I'm gonna add 2x to both sides. Okay, and so on the left side, I have 10x, which means I'm gonna bring the 8a over to the other side. And again, I'm solving for x, so just divide by 10, divide by 10, reduce, and you're done.